this is going to be a quick session. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some more details, a few clouds, and add a few more details in here. And I would say this is not the detail phase, this is just adding another layer. So let me start with, first I wanted to tell you, there's a few other colors that I like, not necessary. This is a, it's like a pale flesh tone. And you can mix this with burnt sienna and white. That's all it is. And this is Prussian blue, which is also similar to a color called Payne's Gray, which is one of my favorites. It's a dark blue. Prussian blue is like navy blue with a little bit of more richness. And then another of my favorite colors is raw umber, which mixed with blue is what I use for my blacks. But it's a brown that has a lot of green in it, as opposed to the burnt sienna, which is has a lot of red in it. All right, so I also have handy my brushes with nothing on them, so I can pick these up pretty quick and blend in. All right, let's go. Let me do, I'm not gonna spray it or do anything. Now, you guys painting on a table, let me say, you can spray your painting and it'll act like a watercolor. I think you just saw this scratch on my hand. It's from my dog. And by the way, there's another dog sleeping at my feet right now. And when there's a dog sleeping at your feet, you can't move the dog, so I'm kind of stepping over her. Anyway, I added some white in here, and I'm going to go back in and punch out these clouds in the detail section, but the way I figure out what to do with these clouds is just kind of arbitrary. I've painted a lot of clouds in my life, I suppose, but you just got to put it down. I'm going to spray it and see what happens. Just a light spray. And this is where you can use acrylic, kind of like watercolor. You can just kind of blend it in. Our goal is not to have a finished painting at the end of this class. Yes, it's going to be a painting, but what I want you to do is to look at it for a few days or a week, and then that helps you figure out what to do next. So I can go back in with my blue here. I'm not going to worry too much about getting the exact color of blue because I can always add more white to blend it in. If we're working from the same basic palette, you're going to have similar colors there anyway that are going to blend fine. If we want this to blend perfectly like an oil painting, basically what we do is we keep putting both colors on, the blue and the white, and then blend it in each section while it's wet. I'm going to bring these out a little bit, like these cirrus kind of clouds. Okay, I'm going to leave that, and then I'm going to go down to the water because I'm using similar colors in the water. Create the light area in the water. Dip in water. If you're laying your painting down, you won't have to worry about it running. I like the way that that's going. I'm going to add some pure white with a dash of this blue on here. These clouds will create reflections in the water. And also the water will be lighter further away. This brush is a little bit big. One thing about brushes is that what you really ought to do is pick the brush you think you're going to need and then grab the one that is the next size up. You do not want to use a brush that is too small, especially for laying in. Now when it comes to detailing, we're going to want a good liner brush, especially working this small. This is small for me. Okay, that's good. we've done a little bit more lay-in of these. What I'm going to do next is I can add some details in our next, our final lesson, which is detail. Next is going to be doing detail in the foliage. So I'm going to mix up, this is my dark blue. I'm going to mix up a stronger green here. Check it out on here. That's a nice green. I like that. And I'm going to add more to the dark here. It needs a little bit more darkness. This is the bottom of these trees. And also, sometimes I need to go put these back in because I went over them. Some of you will not have to go over the sky this much, or you will choose not to. Sometimes your sky will be great the way it is and you want to leave it that way. I just ended up working mine over a bit more. That's why I have to redo this tree line. So now I'm redoing the tree line for good, I should say, or at least for now. And I'm kind of using the reference picture, but I'm not. I'm just trying to make it a little bit broken up. Now I'm going to take some of this raw umber and add it to that so I have a much darker green. Just adding it random. I'm using the corner of a flat brush. Now I'm using the side of the flat brush, or using the flat brush flat, I should say. This is going to be the riverbank, which is also going to create a shadow. This paint is kind of thin. I'm using it kind of like watercolor. In this first lesson, especially if you haven't painted very much before, a lot of what you're going to go through is just learning to see what the paint does and getting to know the brushes. Okay, I'm getting some cast shadow there. I don't want to overdo the shadows. This is my further away, so I'm just going to do a little, I'm going to use this thin. This is kind of a washy is what I'll call it. I'm going to add a little bit of white, but my paint is not that thick. And actually, I have not used my acrylic extender at all. I thought I would use it more. Got to be sure I don't overwork this, because I like some of the lightness that I had earlier. Okay. Now I've got some yellow. This is my brush. I'm going back and forth from colors and haven't cleaned it out yet. As long as you know what is on your brush before you touch the painting. Also, this is a good thing to remember, that a lot of times you want several colors on your brush at one time, because then you'll have the variation built in. These are pine trees. Got a lot of yellow on that globby, but I can go back and work that out later. And this is going to be covered by my grass area here, so I'm not worried about that. You're going to start doing some of this grass right now. Kind of using up the paint and seeing what's there. All right. Now, as I step back, it's important to step back regularly. What I see is that I need to add a little bit more darker layers to this. But first, I'm going to do this field. Like this. This is that kind of riverbank. It's in the reference photo, and I really like what it does because it gives us a chance to have some light flowing out there. I'm kind of liking what that water's doing too. I'm not going to mess with the color too much. So, just using up some paint on this. And I'm ready to stand back and look at it and then make a list of what I want to do for my final details, which will be the final video.